So good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order tonight's meeting of the Community Services Infrastructure Committee. Councillor Brunet, who is the chair, is not well tonight. So I am stepping in as vice chair and taking over for Councillor Brunet. So call to order. I'd like to begin by reading a safety notice. In the event of an emergency, please evacuate council chambers to the nearest exit through the chamber doors and obey all instructions given by the clerk. If assistance is required, please see the clerk. Once you have evacuated the building, please gather in front of the parking lot. Please gather in the front parking lot outside of Town Hall. Also, the Town of Lincoln Committee and Council meetings are posted on our YouTube channel. I would like to thank the lack of public today for attending the meeting this evening, and I would like to remind everyone of our rules for engagement, to please be respectful while others are speaking, and to please refrain from clapping. Delegations will have 5 minutes to speak, and they are asked to stay focused on the agenda item. Please remember to silence all cellular devices. Our roll call tonight, we have Councillor Greg Reimer, Councillor Lynn Timmers, Councillor Mike Mikulik, Councillor J.D. Pachariva, Mayor Sandra Easton, and Councillor Adam Russell in attendance, and myself, Councillor Rinchima. We have a number of staff members in attendance. I'm not going to go through all of their names today. Declaration of interest. Are there any declarations of interest to declare? Seeing none. Statutory public meetings, there are none on the agenda. Delegations, we have no delegations this evening. And now on to the consent agenda. There's one item, item 6.1, CS, report number CS 0319 for the Museum Artifact Donations 2018. Would any member like to remove this item from the consent agenda to discuss? There being no one, we will require a mover for the motion to pass all items on the consent agenda. Thank you, Councillor Russell. All in favor? Thank you. Now on to the regular agenda. We're now considering item 7.1, PW 05-19, the Waste Management Report, and I'd like to call on our Director of Public Works, David Graham, to introduce this.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the purpose of this report is the Niagara region is preparing to put together a request for proposal for a new waste management service contract. And this report here has some proposed level of service options that the region are looking at as they start to prepare for the new service contract. And they're looking for council's input on this, and also some general endorsement of those recommendations, because the intent is the region is going around to all of the local municipalities to get some feedback on these proposed options, and going to be reporting back to regional council on those results. I'd just like to also kind of confirm that the recommendations in this report that the region's looking for some general endorsement on, they're not a final approvals tonight by any means, so council shouldn't feel pressured that you're making an approval of a service. These are just proposed, and the region is going to look at pricing in their RFP of various options. So for example, the region has proposed going to every other week garbage collection. Again, that's just going to be an option for pricing in their RFP. They also plan on putting in the RFP the status quo every week currently. So a lot of this is to get a feel on pricing as they go through the RFP process. I'd like to introduce Brad Whitelaw. He's from the Niagara region. He's the program manager, and he's here to help respond to any questions committee may have as it relates to some of the regional proposed service levels as they prepare for their new contract.
Thank you, Mr. Graham. Mr. Whitelaw, would you like to approach and begin your presentation?
Good afternoon, members of Town of Lincoln Council. I'm here, as David mentioned, if there's any questions that any of you may have with regards to the proposed collection options from region standpoint, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have with regards to the proposed options that are in the report.
Okay, thank you. I know you were here a couple of weeks ago. There was a presentation then, so I think we're all pretty familiar with the work that's being done, and I'm sure we've all had a look at the report, so we know that the options that are being presented. So are there any questions from committee for Mr. Whitelaw? There's nobody in the queue so far. Okay, Councillor Mikulik.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And through you to the presenter, just a couple of questions regarding the region's stance on waste and recycling procedure. Is there currently an education program that the region maintains or adopts within themselves and with the communities that are local area municipalities?
Sorry. Through you, Madam Chair, to the councillor, there is a public education program that the region does with both the residents. We do it to schools. We do various outreach sessions to educate residents and that on the various waste recycling and organics programs in an endeavor to educate them on what they can recycle and what should be properly disposed of. So we do reach out to that. We also have our own green procurement that we do at the region as well.
Okay, the reason why I ask is speaking to members of the education system, from what I understand, from what I'm hearing, it's pretty much basically posters that are put up in schools, and there's not a whole lot of actual communication with the children themselves. I recall myself when, I can remember the days when we did not have recycling. This was all new, blue boxes, and you know, the kids were educated in the school, right? And when my children would come home, they would frown on, you know, me and my wife if we were just throwing everything in the garbage. They would insist on us having a blue bin, insist on us having a cardboard bin. Organics came along, but it just seems like in the last 3, 4, 5 years, there seems to be more of a single stream recycling sort of mentality where just, you know, just throw it in a bag, throw it in the garbage, and you know, let the region deal with it. Is that a fair statement for me to make, or am I incorrect in that?
Through you, Madam Chair, to the councillor, there's 2 separate school boards there. The region does reach out to the public school board. The separate school boards, they have a collection program where they have single streams, so as a result, they're not utilizing, say, the region's program there. But we do extensive outreach with regards to doing presentations at that. It's mainly also directed from the school boards themselves if they want us to come in to do that. We also do them at various early childhood centers as well, trying to get that through. We do them at special events throughout there, and all of them are out to educate the public there, because we know that if we get through the children and all that, as you mentioned, they'll get back to the adults and that. So we do have that. I mean, I can, through the chair, I can get you some more information on that if you would like as well, on what our outreach program is for the school system.
And because my fear is that the education with recycling is going to be forced upon people through a reduction of service, where if we cut back, if we, you know, go to every other week, that will be the way of educating people on recycling, and I'm somewhat challenged by that, especially given the fact that the area I live in is more of a rural area, and I'm personally worried about the rural area becoming a dumpster for those that, you know, miss garbage day on a Friday. Last time you and, was it Miss Habernell or Habernell? I posed a question with regards to the possibility of remote dumpsters or remote areas closer than the landfills that we currently have. Was there any thought to that?
Madam Chair, to the councillors. We did investigate, if I can address the illegal dumping, because you said with rural areas there may be that. Those municipalities that have gone to every other week garbage collection did not find any marked increase at all with regards to reports of illegal dumping or that. So there is that thought that that may be a outcome of going to every other week garbage collection. But we found with our experiences with the best practices of the other municipalities, that didn't come to fruition. As far as the remote dumpsters and that, the region has its drop-off depots that we operate, locations like that for the facilities that have to have a certificate of approval to be able to have that type of there. It's something that I would have to take back to staff there to investigate if there's any other possibility of other locations there. But mainly we direct residents, if they don't have it collected, whatever like that they can go to the region's one. So the nearest one being Niagara Road 12 for them be able to drop off their waste if they don't get anything collected, if they miss collection day.
And again, my fear is that, living, me as a resident, my garbage day is on a Friday, and if I miss garbage day on Friday of my garbage collection, and I go away Thursday night, and I have nobody to take my trash out on that Friday, my trash will sit in my garage for a month, unless I drive at least 15, 20 minutes, make the effort to drive 15, 20 minutes to find a waste landfill site. The concern, and if it's not just me that would have that problem, and it just seems like it would be easier for the regular person or the average person to just take it to a remote road, which I think there's plenty of roads in the town of Lincoln that there's a lot of deserted roads that people would just use as a landfill site, right? And then it would be the town's responsibility to collect that. So that's one of the fears that I have with not having more accessible locations for waste disposal. And then with the problems that we've been having, and sorry, am I?
Yeah, go ahead if you have another
Okay.
question.
Just one more
Counselor.
question with regards to the problems that we've been having in the past year. Was there a process of fining the contractor for failure to fulfill their obligations as set out in that contract?
Through you, Madam Chair, to the councillor, yes, there was, and we did invoke various penalties as we went along. They were progressive in nature to the point where, as you know, with this current contract here for Lincoln and West Lincoln, we ended up having to remove that service from MTR, and it's now provided by another contractor. So progressively, it does do that. We follow the contract to make sure that we're in compliance with it, and if they're doing that, they'll go with warnings, and then progressively it goes into a fine situation, and then if need be, then we end up looking at more severe in nature.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mikulik. Next in the queue, I have Councillor McPherson. Sorry, just a sec.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
There you go.
And through you to the delegation. So first of all, I am supportive of every other week. We are active recyclers, and my garbage pickup every week is half a bag or less. But when you look at the documentation here, I don't feel that you've got that support across the region. So you on page 10 of your report, you've got, and it really gets down to the two items. It's the every other week and the clear plastic bags. I mean, everything else seems to be agreeable, but you get down to LDR households were roughly split on supporting every other week garbage collection, with slightly more leaning towards continuing their weekly collection. And then as far as the clear plastic bags, opposition to mandatory use of clear plastic garbage bags was apparent, particularly from the online survey. 73% were not in favor. I guess my question to you is, in the report, it refers to pricing that we're going to get from the RFQ. Are you actually going to make a decision on pricing, or is the decision pretty much made?
Through Madam Chair to the councillor. As a result of the findings that we did have through the stakeholder consultation, specifically with ClearBag, when we originally took the report to our Public Works Committee, we had not recommended going with with ClearBag. As a result of that, it was an amendment that was made that they wanted to continue with ClearBag. That's why it was put back on there. So we did look at the consultation, so with what you had said, it was exactly right. There was not that support there. With every other week garbage collection, because of the results that we did find, that we thought it was not conclusive, that is pretty much split down there. We looked at the thing, okay, well, we'll come back with pricing on that and then let regional council make that decision. We've based a lot of that, say, on the municipal comparators that we had looked at, because we don't have any results there. When the region did tender this collection contract out, we also did pricing for every other week and biweekly garbage collection. And the savings that were there, with the exception of the one anomaly, which was Emterra's bid here, was an annual savings of 1.2 million. Waterloo, who just recently implemented every other week garbage collection in 2017, saw an annual savings of 1.5. So we know that there's savings in this. So depending, if you go a 7-year contract, that's over $10 million in savings there. We want to be able to present to regional council for their consideration the fact that here's the financial. It's not just, though, the financial on the collection side. It's the environmental benefits, though, that one needs to consider as well with regards to that. When organics or recycling is left in the garbage, the organics themselves don't break down. They create methane gas and leachate, which also needs to be treated. There's an incremental cost for that. Plus, there's only a finite landfill life that's left. So it's taking up landfill space that shouldn't be. The same thing on the recycling side. We sell and market those recyclables where the region receives a revenue that goes back to offset the net waste management costs. By diverting that material out of the garbage stream, both the recycling and the organics, it has an environmental benefit as well as a benefit on the collection and the cost saving side. So there's multiple benefits for that. When we looked at the municipal comparators, we also asked them for the region of Waterloo, who, as I mentioned, just recently implemented that, had a 200% increase in their organics diversion as a result of going with that. So we know there's the facts for going for every other week garbage collection.
If I may, through you, Madam Chair, was there any consideration to phasing the program out? Was there any thought around we will start a program in the city of Welland, and we'll go every other week, and we'll work through it that way, and gain acceptance, and then maybe we expand it to the city of St. whatever. Was there any thought to a phased program to deal with the issues that that might come up as a result of every other week? I totally get all the benefits. That's not in question. I understand that and I buy into it. But it's just how is, to Councillor Mikulic's question, how is the public, how are they going to react to it, and is it going to be difficult for some people, and how are we going to deal with that?
Through you, Madam Chair, to the councillor. Depending on which the proposed options council agrees to go with, there will be that lead time that we'll be doing the extensive outreach with the the public to educate them on what's going to be happening. It's not something that we're all of a sudden going to say, on this day you're going to start, and that we will be doing advanced education on that with residents to lead up to that. The problem with doing a phased approach, when you tender out a contract, the price of a contract is based on how many trucks that are required for it. That's where the municipalities that did implement every other week garbage collection see it. If you do a phased approach, whatever like that, they already have to buy the maximum number of trucks they're going to need to at least start the program. If you phase it in there, then they've got trucks that you've already paid for in the basis of a contract that now would not be needed. So a phased approach doesn't work. You need to be able to say to that contractor, it's every other week garbage collection at the beginning across the region, or you would be just staying at that. When the region does its collection services, is what we refer to as a base collection. So it's everything across the region. So every municipality is treated the same for doing that. So we would be having to do a base collection of every other week across all municipalities.
So, Madam Mayor, Madam Chair, if I can just quickly, so.
Yes.
So you're saying that the winning contractor purchases trucks specifically for this contract? Is that what happens?
Through you, Madam Chair, to that. Exactly. When this current contractor, they purchase the required number of fleet to service the contract, how many trucks they're going to need to collect garbage on a weekly basis, recycling and organics and that. They scope it out, and that's how, when it comes back in with their bid pricing, they've determined that, and they let the region know how many trucks that they're going to anticipate. We'll look at that as part of the analysis of the bid and say, we think you do or don't have enough vehicles to service the region.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McPherson. Councillor Timmers is next.
Thank you, Chair Regina. I think some of my questions were just answered. I was looking for, the finances, how much we would be saving. I'm supportive of every other week. I don't have a problem with clear bags at all. I say bring it on. Because when you see a bag of garbage, half of that bag is organics or things that can be composted. So I think it's time to get in the mindset that we have to throw away less. We have to recycle more. Our landfills we can't keep throwing it in there. So I'm not quite sure. I've been reading all the comments. I don't know why everybody is so opposed to the clear bags. Is it because they don't want people to see what they're throwing away? Or is it the idea of Big Brother's looking to see what they're throwing away? Just what are your thoughts? I can't get my head around it.
Through you,
what the
Madam
issue
Chair,
is.
to the councillor, that's exactly what it is. The biggest thing that we heard back through the consultation, and the consultant heard through the surveys and that, was the perceived issue of privacy. In some cases, residents have very sensitive items that they didn't want their neighbor to know that they were, incontinent or having to use diapers, and they didn't want to see that, or medication and that. The City of Markham, who has the Clear Bag program, first started out with every other week garbage collection, then moved to Clear Bag. They're at an 80% diversion rate for their landfill sites, so we know it works. We reached out to them and asked them for those, what experiences that they had with regards to that. Their residents, and their comment back was actually very interesting, because they said everybody's on Clear Bag, so nobody's going to go around and say, okay, well, that person's out there, because they're all doing the Clear Bag program. So to do that. The other thing, as you mentioned, was the idea of Big Brother watching you, and they get over that, they say, very quickly. The driver's doing that only for the purposes of that. If he doesn't see a recycling box or a green bin program, or a green bin out, but picks up the bag and literally sees all of that material there, that's when they would stick her and leave that behind for the resident to deal with. They're not going to be going through and looking at absolutely everything there. They don't have the time to do that, and that's exactly how Markham said it was with their drivers as well.
But it says clearly that you can use a bag. You could use like a grocery bag on the inside of the clear bag, right? So you could put your sensitive items in a grocery shopping bag and then throw it in the clear bag. Is
Through
that
Madam
correct?
Chair, that's correct.
Right. So maybe it's a phase in every other week and then phase to clear bags.
Through Madam Chair, that's correct.
You know, maybe that would be more, you know, an easier move if we do every other and then the clear bags come in down the road and everyone already gets used to putting less garbage out already. Because I think as soon as you go to that to every other week, you're gonna be a lot more conscious about what you're throwing away. Because you don't wanna have excess sitting around. Like, that's my thinking anyway. But, so, I don't have any other questions, just comments. I just found it very curious about the clear bags, so, because I already use clear bags for all kinds of things, and I don't have an issue with it, so. If anyone who wants to come and look, go ahead, I don't care.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Timmers. Next in queue, I have Councillor Pachariva.
Thanks, Chairman Shima. And I think there's a couple items of consternation is Brad, the first presentation was about, okay, there'll be no clear bags, and it's changed. So it's almost like it's a red herring, where if people acquiesce on that, then it's every other week. But I think the root of the problem is service delivery, right? The service isn't there for the confidence in every other week. I'm going to give you an example. I'm going to share a picture with you. I put my garbage out first thing this morning in my recycling. Blue box, gray box on one side of the driveway, green box, garbage in one bag, little tiny bag to the right-hand side. Made sure I stacked it so my recycling didn't blow all over. During the course of the day, the green bin was blown over on my garbage bag. Garbage bag was white. Came home, garbage bag's still there. It's that the service just isn't there for the confidence to go every other week. If you need to deliver on the service, and then you'll get the buy-in. Some of the numbers here, York Region had a diversion rate of 66% in 2016. Did it slip back in 2017? Because that number's not there. We're at 56%, our target's 65%. Personally, I think the residents are doing everything that they can do, and they can do better. What we need to be doing is tackling the multi-res. Everything goes in a dumpster and gets thrown out. There's no recycling in multi-res at all. I think that's an olive branch that could go out. And last time, Ms. Habermill talked about the cost of those, the large bins. You put them downstairs in a multi-res building, your recycling goes in here, your paper goes in here, the garbage goes in here, the super rolls it out at the end of the driveway, it's done. So I think the burden can't go on the residential homeowner. Everything seems to be placed on the back of the residential homeowner. We're going to be talking budget tonight. And it's just, at some point, a line has to be drawn in the sand. Show the confidence that the service is there, and then I think you can get the buy-in on the other. And I think that's where the push point is right now. So.
So thank you for the comments, Councillor Pachariva. Was there a question in there? I'm not sure.
Well, just confidence in the service delivery.
A suggestion.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the multi-res, why aren't we tackling that?
Through Madam Chair to the councillor, the region already has a multi-residential coordinator that's brought on that. We phased in our implementation of multi-residential program. We do an extensive amount of multi-residential recycling as it is right now. With regards to that, some property or multi-residential buildings are privately collected, so we can only offer our service. We provide free collection of that. The building just has to purchase the carts, and then we provide them with free weekly collection of that. So we are doing the recycling at the multi-residential. That is definitely something that we're focusing on. For your collection issue, with regards to that, moving to a new contract doesn't necessarily mean you'll have the same contractor either. There will be definitely collections. As we know, there was a new contractor that's come here. There is definitely a learning curve that is there. We're working with the contractor, and I think when Ms. Habermill was here last time, she had information from the last contractor with regards to that, because they basically were just starting at that time. There is a learning curve there, and we're working with that, and we appreciate your patience with us, but we'll work with that contractor as well to get that problem straightened out. And I can investigate that as well if you would like.
But I think that's that, you know, that's the touch point there is if the service delivery's there, then I think the faith is there to go every other week, but thank you.
Oh, okay, thank you. Thanks for pointing that out. I do have another counselor who'd like to speak. Counselor Mikulik, you're next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just something that was brought up earlier through you to the presenter. Has there been thought to, so currently we are recycling, we are processing the organics through a method, a staging method where the compostables are being treated. Are you estimating that it's possible that we could have a 200% increase in compostable materials being sorted?
Here to the councillor. That's the results that the Region of Waterloo had. We have a very extensive program, like I say, that's already in place. Our organics, the food organics and all that go through what we call the GORE technology. That's what it is, a staged processing as well. And then dedicated loads of leaf and yard waste are window composted. So the processor that we take that material to is Walker's Environmental, and they're already have the capacity for that. The region has purchased a capacity for that. So that would be something, again, depending on which proposed option, if council goes with that, then that would be the next thing that we would look at. But we already have a processor that's in place for that.
So, through you, so that process is operating at, do you have an idea currently at what capacity it's operating at?
Chair to the councillor, I can get back to you on that. We purchase a capacity for them that we're that, and then we pay a capital and operating price for that material there. I can get back to you with regards to what the capacity is that we currently have with them for processing that.
And then, one more question, is there an estimated extra cost associated with, has that been factored into the possible or hoped savings by having to upgrade the facilities to handle the excess or the extra compostables or recyclables? There would be an extra cost associated with that. That would be my assumption.
Through Madam Chair to the councillor, that's the capital cost that we're already paying for them to do that part of it. So it's already built into the current contract that we have with them.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mikulik. I don't think there's nobody else in the queue. I have a couple of questions. So the question was asked earlier on about the possibility of dumping as a result of this, of the changes that are proposed. And I know you've said that you've heard that it wasn't an issue, but I think we could have an issue, because I could see that. I'm totally 100% in support of all this. I'm an avid recycler. I've been recycling for years, but I know there's people out there that don't recycle at all and don't compost at all, and they don't. And so there's an adjustment period. I think this is all the right thing to do, but there's going to be an adjustment period, and I think there may be some dumping that may happen. And I know that community groups, for example, Community Care of West Niagara, they have their drop-off facilities, and they may find that they have things dropped off at their door that they have to deal with. So I'm wondering if it was considered that some sort of exceptions be provided for community groups, for example, Community Care of West Niagara, that may experience some dumping. What are their options?
To the chair there. The region has a program that's already in place with nonprofits where we waive the tipping fees for them for that. So the various nonprofits, they submit an application to the region, and once that application is approved, we do waive the tipping fee, provided again that they're using our program as well.
Okay, good to know. And I had one more question. You refer in here to designated business areas. I'm wondering what the definition of that is. That sort of everybody's central business district? Is it their BIA area? So how do you define designated business areas?
Chair, to the chair, essentially it aligns with the existing BIA areas with some exceptions depending on that. We are going to be, if you that? We're-
Yep.
Madam Chair, if I could just add, so with the current Beansville BIA, by expanding their boundaries, so staff's working closely with the region right now to ensure all that will be captured for their new RFP, so.
That's a very good point. Thank you, Mr. Graham. Did you have more you wanted to say to that?
We work with each of the municipalities. Their business groups will determine what that will be. That's what goes into the contract so that we designate to the contractor, this is the boundary that you have for your designated business area.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Okay. Okay, that's wonderful. So I do have another counselor who would like to speak. Counselor Russell, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just one quick question. How familiar are you with the costs at landfill for people when they come up and drop off garbage? Vaguely familiar, or? I don't put you on the spot if
No,
you're not.
through you, Madam Chair. There's, the tipping fee is in place for various materials. There are some materials where we waive the tipping fee if it's recyclable material or organics material, leaf and yard waste material. We don't charge a tipping fee for it, but general waste there's a tipping fee of $100 a ton for that.
But even just, like for an individual, like I know when I have to go up to the dump, if I'm even just gonna drop off a bag, like I'm thinking in Councilor Mickwick's case, say I'm gonna miss my pickup for that 2-week period, and I've got just a bag or two, just traditional normal garbage, I go up there and it would cost me about $5 for that cost. And I'm assuming it's based on weight, because you do go on the scales when you go through, and I don't go through it that often, so that's why I was wondering if you had any information on it. But is there any consideration maybe to waiving the fee for a minimum weight that's being dropped off? So if it is within the realm of what would be traditional garbage, maybe to encourage people to go up and drop off garbage if they're gonna miss, rather than potentially, again, drive out to a rural area and throw it out? That, like, just in my thought process, that if I am gonna miss my week, and I'd rather maybe save the $5 and not go up to the dump, well, if there is no cost, it may divert some people to just head up there and drop it off. Is there any thought to that, or is it just that there's still always gonna be that basic fee for drop?
Through you, Madam Chair, to the councillor, there is at the minimum, what you're referring to, there is a minimum fee for certain, up to certain kilograms, then it kicks in with the price per kilogram. That is something that I'd have to take back, but at this point in time, there's not been any consideration for that, but I'd take it back to them as well.
Again, just my thoughts are that if people are going up there and dropping off excessive, like if they're cleaning out their garage, obviously you want to make sure that that's outside of the realm of normal collection. But if, again, somebody's just going up there and dropping off a bag and they are a local resident within the municipality, that can be something that can be looked at.
Okay, thank you, Counselor Russell. I don't have anybody else in the queue, so I'm going to go ahead and read a motion, and it's a fairly lengthy motion. The motion reads, to receive and file PW 0519 Region of Niagara 2020 Waste Collection Service Contract, proposed changes and Town of Lincoln enhanced collection services. Niagara Region proposes recommendations 1 through 8 be endorsed. Number 1, pricing for the following garbage collection frequency options. That every other week garbage collection be implemented for all residential properties and for those industrial, commercial, and institutional properties and mixed-use properties located outside designated business areas as a base service. Current garbage container limits would double for all properties on an every other week basis. The recycling and organic bin collection for all properties shall remain weekly collection. Those industrial, commercial, and institutional, this should say, I think. Those industrial, commercial, and institutional properties and mixed-use properties located inside the designated business areas would continue to receive weekly garbage, recycling, and organics collection as a base service. B, status quo, weekly base garbage collection service. Number 2, that switching to mandatory use of clear garbage bags with optional opaque privacy bag for all sectors be considered an option, and more information be shared on opportunities and challenges of such a change. 3, that the establishment of 4-item limit per residential unit per collection for large item collection at low-density residential properties be approved as a base service as per the recommendation of the Waste Management Division of Niagara Region. 4, that the appliance and scrap metal pickup be discontinued at low-density residential properties as for the recommendation of the Waste Management Division of Niagara Region. 5, that the number of garbage bags, containers for industrial, commercial, and institutional properties and mixed-use properties inside designated business areas be reduced from 7 to 4 per week as a base service as per the recommendation of the Waste Management Division of Niagara Region. 6, that the number of garbage bags, containers for mixed-use properties outside designated business areas be reduced from 6 to 4 per week, or 8 containers per week under every other week garbage collection as a base service as per the recommendation of the Waste Management Division of Niagara Region. Number 7, that the town's enhanced service and extra payment for front-end garbage collection at town-owned facilities continue. Number 8, that pricing for the provision of a new enhanced service for large item collection, bracket, parallel to the service approved for low-density residential properties, bracket, to those households in multi-residential buildings with 7 or more residential units and mixed-use properties with 1 or more residential unit that receive the region's base curbside or enhanced front-end garbage collection service be included in the upcoming regional tender. 9, that council direct the clerk to inform the region of the town's position on the proposed waste collection service changes. So that's the motion. We require a mover for the motion. Councillor Timmers is moving that motion. All in favor? Thank you. So that motion is carried. Yes. Sorry, let me, there your mic is on, Councillor McPherson.
A question to the motion. You know, some of this is got options in it. It's not a clear direction. You know, you've got item number 1 is A or B, and then you've got item number 2 is for all sectors be considered an option and more information to be shared. So is it safe to assume that this is direction to give to the region to go look into these things, and that the region would then come back and ask us for a more defined recommendation?
Yeah, I think, Director Graham, do you want to answer that?
Thank you, through you, Madam Chairman. I think the region, so this is what the region has proposed as options to include in the request for tender that they want to put together. So they want to get committee's general endorsement to move forward and include these in their tender as options for pricing. And they want to take our feedback, committee's feedback, any feedback that you have, back to regional council.
So sounds like it's safe to assume that these are potentially what we're going to see coming 2 years from now, 2021. That there's not, this is not, hey folks, what do you think of this so far? And then come back, you know, a year from now and say, okay, here's the way A went, here's the way B went, here's the way number 2 went, and here's our savings. Can we get your endorsement now?
Okay, so I've called Mr. Whitelaw up to answer that question for you, Councillor McPherson.
Through Madam Chair to the Councillor, exactly. What we're looking for is which options that we can put in this RFP. Based on the evaluation of those options, what the region will do, we will write a report once we've got all the bids there as far as the award. We will go back then to regional council, similar to what we just did with this current contract that we're in. And we said, okay, here's the options that we have, here's the pricing here. At that time, regional council will then make the decision which they wanted to implement for the 2021 contract. So at this point in time, really, it's if all municipalities say, no, we're not supportive of that, we'll also take that back as well as in the report. So a report is going next month to Public Works, our Niagara Region's Public Works Committee, and then Regional Council from there. That will say, here's the basis of all the consultation that we've done with the local area municipalities. We've already given them the stakeholder from the residential and the business groups. They will then make that decision whether they're in favor of us incorporating that into the RFP for the next contract. from that point in time, we'll then get those bids once it's gone to the street, and then we'll be going back to regional council for the approval of when they want.
So, Madam Chair, so it sounds like it's really an all-or-nothing thing here. It seems like it's, we're including clear plastic bags and we're saying, yeah, we endorse it, go ahead and do it. That's what it sounds like in this, the way this is written. It's not set up to say, okay, we have all these items. There is an option A and B to number 2 to say A is clear plastic bags, B is green bags, and your bids are gonna show that. I don't know enough about the garbage pickup world to tell you what savings you're gonna see from an MTER or somebody like that that's gonna say, well, it's cheaper for me to pick up a clear plastic bag than it is a green bag. I don't think it is. That's just, I think those garbage, if I watch the guys picking up the garbage, they could care less what color it is. So I guess I have an issue with clear plastic bags. So I'm not supporting this whole, although I support every other week, I'm not supportive of clear plastic bags. I'd rather see us move through every other week and see what gains we collect out of that, similar to what you said Waterloo did, and then look at clear plastic bags if the every other week is not giving us the results we want. So, I did not vote in favor. So,
I didn't either.
Okay, so Councillor McPherson, you'd like your vote to be recorded as a negative vote.
please.
Okay. I have a couple of people in the queue.
Oh,
I don't know why my name's up there. Okay, so I think I have Mayor Sandra Easton next to speak.
Okay, thank you very much.
Go ahead.
Madam Chair. I think I understand where Councillor McPherson is coming from, and I also, I share your concerns, and I think that what I'm reading into the document, and I've heard it now, I've heard the report a few times at the region, and we've had discussions here about it, is that there's a body of knowledge through some fairly extensive research that has been done in quite large centers, and there's a pattern of outcome that is now being presented to us, and so it appears to me that there isn't going to be that kind of rechecking, if you will, because we already know what the results were in other communities. Now, I suppose we could say that we're special and there's things about this area that are different, but, I mean, if I just look at Ottawa and its rural area, or even Kitchener-Waterloo, I don't really know if we're all that different. So maybe the way to deal with us is to take out any sections that are contentious for councillors. We did vote, right?
Yes.
Well, then it is moot, but maybe that probably is what will happen at the region. Some of these pieces will be pulled out, and people's preferences around things like the clear plastic bags, we will be voting on them separately, because any issues that are complex and contentious, that is how we generally deal with it, and then you get a better consensus on the bulk of the motion. So I'm just suggesting that may happen at that end. We'll see, but it could be, Councillor McPherson, that your views would be represented better at that end of things. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Easton. Our clerk would like to speak. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, I just wanted to let you know that since we are still within this agenda, we can reconsider. So you can do by majority vote, and then reconsider. And if you need to amend that motion, if you needed to amend it by scrapping out number 2, you can do that. So I just wanted to let you know that, you know, there is that other option.
The option on the table is still to amend the motion and vote again.
So reconsider, majority vote, okay? After that, if that goes forward and that's carried, then you can put that item back on the table for discussion, okay?
Okay, so I do have a couple more speakers. I think what we'll do is look to see if we want to reconsider that motion that we've just heard first. So I need to see how committee feels about reconsidering this last motion. All in favor? Yeah, so we're going to be reconsidering that motion. And next in line, I have Councillor Timmers.
Chair Regima, my comment was just that we'd already done the vote. Can we do an amendment? So I think that's where we're going, so I don't have anything more to say. I would be supportive of an amendment and remove that piece that Councillor McPherson is opposed to.
Okay, thank you, Chair Timmers. Next, I have Councillor Mikulik.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My point was I want my vote to be recorded as a no in that previous motion.
Okay, thank you. I believe all our votes are recorded anyway. But we're not doing a recorded vote? Okay. We're going to be revoting anyway. So Councillor Pachariva, next.
Yeah, and mine was just a point of order, is that the call to who voted against it was never called. So I don't even know if that motion passed. So I too was against it. So if we're going to look at it and change it, then so be it. I'm okay with that.
Madam Clerk?
So as you discussed, that carried, and so you're going to reconsider this item. If you so wish, you can say all in favor and all opposed, okay?
Yes. So so we need an amended motion. And so I think Councillor McPherson, it came from you originally, so how would you like to amend the motion?
Easy now, easy. No, I would amend the current motion to pull number 2 out, to remove number 2
Okay.
from the motion. All else, you know, I think is reasonable. I think that you know, that works for me.
Thank you, Councillor McPherson. So I think that's pretty clear. Is that clear through to the clerks? And I'm going to read the number 2 that's being pulled out just for clarity. That switching to mandatory use of clear garbage bags with optional opaque privacy bag for all sectors be considered an option, and more information be shared on opportunities and challenges of such a change. So the proposal is that this motion be moved forward, removing number 2, which I've just read. So I'm going to call for a vote in the positive for that motion. All in favor? All opposed? So that motion as amended is carried. Thank you, everybody. And on to the next item on the agenda. Where's my script? We are now considering item 7.2 CS 0219, 2018, Community Services Report. Everybody's had their agenda for quite a while. Yeah, we've had a few cancellations with weather, so are there any questions from council on the Community Services Report? Right now I have nobody in queue. Any questions from council on the Community Services Report? Seeing none. I have a motion. The motion is that we receive for information Community Services Report CS 0219 2018. Require a mover for the motion. Councillor Timmers, all in favor? Okay, that is carried. Next item on the agenda. We are now considering item 7.3 CS 0419, Parks Commemorative Program. Are there any questions from council? I have Madam Mayor Easton.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm pleased to see this motion, and of course, it's covered by fees, and so it doesn't appear, but maybe we should just check that there aren't any cost to the municipality. So that would be my first question. And my second question is that I had sent forward some examples of benches to community services that actually had interesting laser work done on them, but they were really benches that were suitable for placement near the cenotaph. So that if we were inclined to turn the cenotaph area into more of a peace garden, these were rather interesting benches, and I think they came from England. However, Ms. Zane was looking into them. So those are just two questions that I have, and I don't know whether that second type of bench fits in under this policy or not. So those are my questions through you, Madam Chair.
Okay, so I believe your questions are regarding if there's any further costs with, other than the operating costs that we have in place right now.
Yeah.
And about the benches that you had inquired
Yeah.
about. So, through to Director McKay.
Through you, Madam Chair, to Mayor Easton. Absolutely, we are recovering costs on this entire program. So we've covered the cost of the actual product, the installation, and the maintenance that we expect on the product.
Okay. So the second piece, it was actually a question that I asked of Ms. Zane. Sarah.
Okay, would you like to approach a microphone?
And if it's been too long, I quite understand, and she can tell me at a later date. but,
Okay, that makes sense.
Through you, Madam Chair, to the mayor. Yes, I do recall the email that you sent last fall. The products that you provided us with were an etched bench that were memorial benches specific to cenotaphs. And you are correct that they were shipped from Europe. So we have made contact with that supplier. At the time, it was shortly before Remembrance Day, so it wasn't feasible to get them on site. We've identified the cost as well as the ship time for this year, and we're working with local groups to be able to fund those. They're not part of our proposed operating budget, so it would
Okay.
be a requirement for a community partner to come on board to purchase those items.
Okay. And so, Madam Chair, through you, it doesn't fall under this policy per se, but it could, I guess.
Through you, Madam Chair, it could, if a community group was willing to come on and purchase those benches, it would be part of this program, yes.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Excellent. Thanks, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mayor Easton. I have another question here from Councillor Mikulik.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to staff, I'm looking, I think this is a great idea to generate income and to, promote legacies amongst the community members. The cost of the tree, $750 for a tree. What is the cost to the town for that tree, out-of-pocket expense? I'm not sure who I would address that. Is that
Okay, Director McKay.
Through you, Madam Chair, to the councillor. They depend on the size and the variety, but usually $350 to $450. And then we have the installation fees, which include the mulch and the stakes and the staff time. There's a plaque in that, so the total cost is between $650, $750.
Reason why I ask is because those trees, we're guaranteeing them for 2 years. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Yeah.
So I look at a picnic table costing $2,500, which that's a pretty expensive picnic table. But then the tree, having to guarantee that tree at $750, and depending on how we maintain those trees, and the reason why I ask is I've met with people in the community where trees die, and they die if they're not taken care of, and I'd hate to lose money on an item that can get pretty expensive should it not be taken care of. Is that Does that make sense, or am I?
So Councillor Mikulik, you want to ensure that these trees are properly maintained over the following 2 years?
I'm definitely concerned about that, because there's been social media posts of people having trees planted on their front yard and then being not taken care of and dying, and then the town having to replace those trees. And at $750, I feel as though having to guarantee it for 2 years, we could be losing money if we're not making a multiple amount, you know.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Mikulik. So I guess the question is, do we have the resources in place to care for those trees and the plan in place to care for the trees? Staffing resources?
Through you, Madam Chair. So, yeah, I mean, the warranty on the trees is typically what the nursery would give us when we purchase the trees. We've done much more training now with staff about proper care of trees in our parks and in our public spaces. So we're hopeful that that training will pay off and we won't be replacing a lot of trees. We've had staff learn how to properly mulch a tree, for example. We had an arborist work with us last year, working with staff. So we're doing that to try to develop those skill sets and that knowledge. And we feel pretty confident that this is going to be successful.
Okay.
That's all.
Thank you. So plans are in place, that's good. So there's no more questions from council, so I have a motion that we receive for Information Community Services Report CS 0419 regarding the Parks Amenities Commemorative Program. We require a mover for the motion. Councillor Russell, all in favor? So that motion is carried. Next item on the agenda is confidential items. We have no confidential items this evening. After that is number 9, staff remarks. Do we have any remarks from staff from any of the agenda items today? Okay, I don't see anybody interested with any remarks. Number 10, committee remarks. Do we have any remarks from any committee members that haven't been covered during this agenda? Okay, none. Number 11 is adjournment. There being no further business, I call this meeting adjourned. We will reconvene at 6 p.m. for the Committee of the Whole operating budget.